For every Bethesda game, there is always that one challenge that every challenge runner must do at some point, such as using your fists in Oblivion, beating Skyrim with the worst weapons, talking down the Legate in New Vegas, and can you beat Fallout 4 if every enemy is legendary? This has been a run I have been wanting to do for a very long time. The mod I am using for this run is by XDD Gamer, where every enemy in the game has been turned legendary, even the enemies that were once not legendary such as turrets. And now, I must survive in the hell I have created. Frankly, it sounds better than my day job. Oh yeah, I have a new avatar redesign, created by the wonderful Nobina. Originally, I was going to record Oblivion for this week, however, all I wanted to do is play a good game. Meanwhile, this thing won't shut the hell up! So I need to put that on the back burner for now. Okay, back to the task at hand. The run will be pretty basic, every enemy is legendary, and that will be the crux of the challenge. No real rules for this run, just trying to survive with enemies basically turned up 3 notches. With how powerful some of the legendary effects can get, how long will it be before I become vastly overpowered? Let's find out. Starting up from the beginning instead of the vault exit, just to test to see how the mod interacts with the introduction of the game, I just make sure to take the time perfecting myself in the mirror, just taking myself to its absolute limit before the mirror shatters into a million pieces. Otherwise, it is the usual waiting around watching the television until the mailman can give me my package deal. For special stats, I don't really have any build in mind, just making sure I can get perks for the weapon archetypes. Afterwards, I go back and ingesting my body's weight in sink water. Damn it, the baby's crying, interrupting me from my quality H2O time. I play with the baby, and instead of watching the news that the whole world's ending, I am back to my sinking feeling. Things were interesting when sprinting to the vault. It's like the clothing articles are violently ejecting themselves from the people's bodies, and no, I am not talking about the next hentai plot, though sadly the gooners will gravitate towards it rather quickly. I grabbed some old guy's walking cane from him, and keeping it for myself, along with a gun I can suck on, though the game immediately takes that plan away. I'm just gonna give it to my wife so she can defend herself. I sit down in my refrigerator for the next few hundred years, and watch as my wife is shot. You see, all this could have been avoided if I gave my wife a gun to defend Sean. Though at the same time, Mr. Serial revealed my wife was actually not legendary. She is a fraud. Well, that expedites the divorce proceedings. Now comes the escape out of the vault, and quickly, I realize what I get myself into, as the first Radroach is legendary. It is still an easy one-shot, but every enemy is now dropping legendary items, including a sprinter's leggings, though I will not be able to equip it until I'm at the end of the vault. One perk of legendary enemies is that some enemies will grow in size. Sure, this could seem as making them more intimidating, and I see it as a larger hitbox when a crappy aim to shoot at. Before long, the bugs are exterminated, and I can immediately upgrade my equipment to way stronger than it should be at this point in the game. I arrive in the fresh 2015 fetish of every game world being brown, and I tell the Institute I mean business. And now I can get started in preparing myself for an ass of a lifetime. Since I am not restricted on my weapons or anything else, I am free to exterminate the bugs as I see fit, instead of giving the British an excuse to French kiss the bloatflies. I also use a special bug to bump up my perception to Wretched Night Person, and find in dismay my sink has been broken. A normal person would come to learn acceptance and move on with their life. However, I am very deranged, and for that, the Commonwealth will suffer. Something I should note, throughout the entire run, I end up finding a shitload of laser muskets. Funny, since I hear a lot of the time the laser musket is awful. Meanwhile, I end up using laser muskets through the run, and I will do a challenge run with laser muskets at some point, if you're all interested. The rest of my introduction goes as normal, pilfer through my deceased neighbor's belongings, and scrapping them for materials I can dedicate a shelf monument in their honor. I have no idea who they were, what their names were, or if they were even worth being alive in the first place, but at least I am now level 5, so legendary enemies can now normally spawn in the overworld, if they weren't already legendary. Ready as I can be, I ventured down the road to a gas station for smokes and a dog whom I refuse to acknowledge, and come across some bloodbug hatchlings. I have died to these bloodbugs before at level 1, so I know how dangerous they can be. They were running away from me. Florida, why do you reject me? Oh well, I arrive in Concord ready to trash a place filled with raiders, and one 10mm was staggering me. Yeah, the enemies can sometimes use their legendary weapons against me. Once the welcoming committee has been welcomed to the afterlife, I try to one-up Preston by shooting him in the face with his own laser musket, but he isn't real, just a figment of my schizophrenia. I decided why not, I can clear out the museum of its people problem. It wasn't that difficult of a time. If I just blow everyone's brain matter into the next life, they can't mutate to phase 2. I grabbed the bobblehead I came here for and left the museum to clear out Concord once again. The battle was way more difficult than it normally is, as way more raiders were out playing, descending on my location like bourbon snouts finding out where Pappy bottles were dropped off at. I charged my way through the streets until Vault Yoshi can come out to play with the chew toys. Man, I remember Yoshi being way more vibrant and happy. This must have been the result of the CIA dropping off all that crack on Yoshi's Island. I seriously think something went on in the code, as there were way more raiders than there normally should be. But if there's any one thing that makes things easier, Yoshi can turn its attention away from me and onto the IRS agents. Something weird happened midway through the fight. One of the raiders shot me, and I healed to full when I dipped below half health, and I started to have a JoJo aura. I myself must be legendary, and I have mutated. And now, I am angry. Every enemy started dropping like flies, and before long the lizard can turn into lizard bits, and I can talk to Preston like a JoJo protagonist to escort his crew of rejects back to the sanctuary. Like the good time god I am, I repeat Preston's dialogue over and over until the smooth part of my brain polishes itself to a fine sphere and can get me a level up. Some might call this cheating. I call this mind your f***ing business. I am not playing this game casually. I'm here to travel to some raider camp and cause some casualties. On one of the enemies, honestly I have no idea who dropped it, my bullets are now lit on fire. If you want the pain, now you can have the pain. Oh yeah, I wandered my way to the robotic junkyard to tell a sentry bot to commit Sudoku on my command, which it does, and blows itself up so hard it needed an encore to finish the explosions. If there's any one nice thing about every enemy dropping legendary items, you can procure yourself a shitload of items to sell it at the local pawn shop, where you can sell your grandma's ashes for something the feds will spoon feed you, along with ammunition, so I won't need to worry about my cap situation, even when I'm as charismatic as some Pepito adjacent being, both with a stutter and a lisp and an invitation to your local psychopaths. I set the walls on fire for some easy loot, and the thought did cross my mind, offing Trudy, but every vendor means less carry weight long term. If you have watched my early game route in Fallout 4, you know what needs to happen. There's a tin can that needs rescuing. If every enemy is legendary, it would be funny to visit a location filled to the brim with legendary enemies. That's never ending. Frankly, the goals weren't too difficult since my backup is all legendary, and in the gotcha polls, I managed to pull a legendary hyper ultra mega other adjacent adjectives to describe the situation, an explosive 10mm handgun. The nice thing about explosive style weapons, you don't need to worry about aiming. Just point in a general direction and you will hopefully hit your mark, maybe a few others. The trip to ArcJet wasn't too interesting. Pop the bugs like a sledgehammer to a melon, have the dogs play fetch with sticks of TNT, and we are inside ArcJet. The synths could prove to be a nuisance simply because they hit hard at this point in the game before they gain their aimbot buff at half health. The reason I'm in ArcJet isn't to become friends with the Brotherhood. To be honest, I plan on sending their power armor units to a can opener, but rather for the shitload of fusion cells and an infinite pool of legendary items. As the enemies are being gunned down for the fun of it, I should probably explain what those JoJo style auras legendary enemies have when they mutate. Yellow is done to most humanoid enemies, it increases the damage by 1.5 times, and greatly increases the accuracy after the first shot. Red auras, which apply to most wildlife, simply doubles the damage they do, so legendary Deathclaws become Fallout New Vegas Deathclaws. Robots get a yellow aura, and when they die, they explode for a shitload of radiation damage. A piss-colored aura, which is for your insectoids, inflict poison damage, which stacks, which turns some fast-attacking enemies very deadly. And a green aura is for your radiation-based enemies like feral ghouls to give them greater radiation damage. Then there is the very elusive blue aura, safe for egomaniac content creators, which gives a warning to subscribe. Or else, I will press this big red button and roast everyone here. Eventually I get bored, and I hope you are all good to subscribe. I decide to fight the synths piling up in the room. The explosive damage makes for a fun cacophony of ragdolls, but not a good time for all the damage the synths are doing to me. I just repeatedly button mash the E key, picking up as much ammunition and legendary items my little body can handle. I'm going to be making a shitload of caps this way. I drop the less lucrative items on the floor, and sadly despite sifting through hundreds of robots on the floor, not a single one had an explosive shotgun. I am only level 8 or so, I shouldn't get my hopes up just yet. The remaining synths are lucky I have gore disabled, or their liquid coolants will be painting the walls a nice shade of blue. And I can join the Brotherhood in one of several million timelines. Staying in the timeline, I get a lot of experience. I figure at this point I should probably make my way to Diamond City, making sure to paint the walls red of Art's blood. Probably using an indiscriminate explosive weapon wasn't the best choice when choosing a side, but I would have killed them both regardless. I make it to the Riptide, and I'm really starting to feel the enemy's damage ramp up. They are hitting me hard, and my handgun is already starting to fall off. Even the super mutant camp ends up shredding my health. If only there were a legendary hat that could boost my endurance by 2. That could help out a lot. I bashed Viper to let me into the city, took a few timelines where she didn't decide to shoot me repeatedly, and a few more to get the key to the city. I am here for one thing and one thing only. Sweet, delicious caps and ammunition. I said one thing and ended up saying 2 things. I don't know how to count, okay? I figure I should drop off my loaded junk. Broken desk fans go here, and copies of Concord go there, and when sifting through the goods, I find a divine artifact, my favorite head attire. It's like God Howard was smiling at me, or using a peace offering so I don't end up breaking his games even more. I was mostly here to upgrade my guns to maybe help out in the long run, but I need brains to even conceive how to stick a knife on a gun and not have it point my eye out. So to the library I go. And on Kyle, I find a very aptly named weapon. Too bad nobody gave a shit about him. I marched my way towards Park Street Station, ready to start triggering the triggermen, but something inside me told me blow up a junkyard, and that I did. I just want to avoid the parking tickets and traffic and just go to front row parking. The nice thing about explosive weapons is that it isn't a delicate blow to the noggin, more of a to whom it may concern, and I don't have to worry about aiming. I do make it to the library and grab the intelligence bobblehead to make up for the fact I think it is a good idea to use Drano as a still softener. What? I need to unclog my pipes. This battle turned into a 2-sided onslaught, and thank God I am with the robots, so when I feel the urge to go Nagasaki, I won't be on the receiving end of the nukes. I wish I had an explosive personality, but it's much more of a deadpan stutter. At least things weren't too difficult. Just the hardest thing about doing this mission is resisting the urge to hurl myself on top of the nearby skyscraper with the loading screen. I failed the urge, so I decided to climb up to the top of Trinity Tower for no real reason. This climb was definitely challenging. The super mutants have a lot of health, and they deal a lot of damage, and I am failing to get the one-shots on the mutants, so every one of them were going into their enraged phase, and I do end up going through a lot of my healing supplies and ammunition. And why yes, it is also a skill issue. Were you expecting quality gameplay? The only quality thing the super mutants is getting is a quality time decorating the walls with their innards, and that makes me happy. The roof wasn't nearly as tough as I was expecting. Mostly at this point, I threw caution to the wind and hopped on my motorcycle and went 120 through a school zone, which sadly is all too common of an occurrence around here. I lured Fist to my position, and the nice thing about explosive weapons is that I can fire at a nearby wall and miss repeatedly. Fist fisted himself a little too hard, and now comes escaping the tower. I am starting to run low on ammunition, but at least I have strong to carry my wimpy ass. At least things weren't too bad, and off of some corpse, I find a mutant slayer gun to help dispose of the enemies, along with an automatic laser musket to give it a go. Which sucked, so I returned to my laser musket. I dropped it. Why the f*** did I drop it off the f***ing tower? I played too much Morrowind, okay? Oh well, Rex is back to his anime harem, and I can ignore Strong, and Arturo can continue his impressive collection of impractical guns. Yeah, I am really starting to feel my weapons falling off at this point, and I have no idea when I'll be able to find even more broken weapons, so it is back to Sanctuary to upgrade my guns to an ascended form, even if I have to pretend I have gun at level 3. As for armors, I keep on finding upgrades to the run, so I don't focus on upgrading them. Ready as I can be, I return to downtown and hike my way to the Park Street Station. I really don't feel like fighting a legendary swan and getting mauled to death. I charge my way into the station, and now my explosive pistol is chewing through the triggermen like a starving Pepito eyeing a plump piece of steak. Maybe not wearing any armor is not a good idea if you don't want to be turned into a block of Swiss cheese. Honestly, I was expecting a lot worse with the triggermen, given how much I struggled with the super mutants. As much as I love the 10mm handgun, I don't like how quick it chews through ammo. I never liked automatic weapons in games. Things did get easier as the dungeon went on, using my laser musket to create new eye holes in the assholes, and popping Dino's head like a balloon. I think the trauma was enough for Nick to hide in a corner for the rest of the time. Don't blame him. If you watch some madman in a sea captain hat turn heads into a palette for paintings, I too would run and hide. In fact, I do that all the time with myself. The escape wasn't anything too special, just missing every shot with my crap aim, and before long we are post-commentating Post Malone. One shot in the noggin is enough to cap anorexia, and for the rest of the crew, I hid in the side room, letting them funnel one by one into my kill box. Nice and simple, the monsters were put on ice, and I got an icy handgun for my trouble. And I can celebrate my victory by being stuck on some piping. My brain is very smooth, okay? We can embrace the radioactive fresh air of 2277, and of course that means free save stones for level ups. along with the usual talking segments, such as being interrogated by the store clerks. Why the hell does my online order consist of a shovel, bleach, hacksaws, and some lawn bags? That is for me and 3 smelly vigilants to stand in my basement to know about, okay? I get pressed by the authorities, and I can feign ignorance, and break into a soup box to steal supplies, and talk to some legendary mud to track down the runaway cereal mascot after finding out that Crackle and Pop were ground up in a machine and the foreman hid the evidence. Now comes finding my own way towards Fort Hagen, and there is a lone settler being held hostage by a bunch of super mutants. I try to be the good Christian boy I am, and tried saving the super mutants from the settler, but I kept on missing that fleshy noggin, and ended up hitting the mutants, and I feel somewhat guilty at my inaction. I also hit up the local trailer park for more ghouls to be ground into a fine sausage. I just announced to the crowd, I have free beer that tastes like years worth of piss fermenting in a bathtub, and everyone came out of the woodworks to greet me. Get some every time. Eventually I make it to Fort Hagen, ready to suffer for my insolence, and the turrets were not playing nice. They are the teacher's pet, and they were showing off their stars. In the inside of the fort, I try to play things safe. I have no sentient toaster to take bullets off of me. I just have some mud I found at a gas station, and from the sounds of things, he isn't doing very well. I tried telling him to go home, but the game kept on saying no. Okay, you can stay here, and I'll forget about you like your last 2 owners. Thankfully the fort wasn't too strenuous outside of the first part. The enemies were well spaced out, and I'm not getting gangbanged in every side, and I can snipe from afar. I even found some star-crossed lovers laying in the meadows as the crop duster drops a metric ton of on their corpses. I even found the illustrious fat man locked in a storage closet that failed basic training, but they felt bad. The poor guy had a heart attack on his first day. Which works, because I heard Kellogg is feeling under the weather and could use a care package. Somehow the Sins missed the memo, so they had to be disposed of the old-fashioned way, but they won't turn invisible and repeatedly heal spam. With the legendary brain augment in hand, I take the still twitching matter to Sanctuary to upgrade the laser musket further, then return to Diamond City to do the usual sell all my futuristic retro tech to the vendors, then be invited to relive my past traumas. I just plucked away at whatever ghoul gooned themselves to a grave, or any super mutants that looked at me funny. I know, redesign and everything, but you don't need to stare at the ears. It sure beats the bat wings. Eventually, after being told away from mass fusion, I arrived in Good Neighbor, where Hand Around a Cock gave me a demonstration of what being a good neighbor is all about. Add to notes. Repeatedly shank any solicitors or those who fail to pay their overpriced HOA dues. Got it. Afterwards, it is a casual dive through dementia, trying to figure out which park Kellogg dropped off his kid. Turns out, it was just child support taking the kid away via teleportation. Sucks when that happens. Next up comes the Glowing Sea, which given everything being mildly more threatening, I figure I should prepare myself for an anal probing of a lifetime. Straight to head trimmer territory. And of course my small brain thought scaling ass fusion for the first of 2 times would be a wonderful idea. These gunners are slightly stronger than what I'm dealing with, so they should probably have better loot. They were holding out, but at least I made a sick ass charge across a bridge right into a missile launcher before they had any bright ideas. I am supposed to be the blabbering moron around here, doing stupid ideas and getting away with it. Not you. Yeah, the climb really didn't bear much fruit, but at least I got a useless lever action rifle, along with a strength bobblehead. Mostly, just a waste of ammo. For the briefest of moments, I did consider paying the railroad a visit, but my hyper-focus is on ultraviolence, not trains, so I dip for the time being. Know that I will be savoring my appetizer. Now comes wandering down towards the Glowing Sea, and inside one of the warehouses near the clinic in Fort Hagen is a set of T-51 power armor ready to embrace me in its metallic grasp to become my sarcophagus, and mostly defense against the Glowing Sea. I am not taking any chances with the dangerous wildlife. After killing some ghouls, I did manage to procure myself some funny weapons. A sniper rifle, which I will pivot into for the remainder of the run, along with a minigun. Not so nice, but free money. Not much happened before heading into the sea, except for a lot of stuff. You know, casually getting a missile lodged up my arse. Followed up by beating a deathclaw so bad, it died while sucking itself off. Disgusting. At the precipice of the Glowing Sea came even more deathclaws, but thankfully the Brotherhood of Steel came to help me out with the geckos. Not so much with the rabid ragstags, and a very, and I mean very, powerful rifle. A Brotherhood soldier unfortunately bit the bullet, but at least I now have a considerable upgrade on my attire to hopefully help me in hell. Yeah, the Glowing Sea is the part of the run I was scared of the most. Well, besides flying obesity. namely the rat scorpions. Poison is very deadly in Fallout 4, and with how fast the rat scorpions attack, the poison damage stacks up so fast. So, my best bet here, snipe the insectoids from afar, and pray that they don't realize how much insecticides flow in my veins. I don't know what was worse, the Deathclaws having a million health, or letting rat scorpions' venom slowly replace my microplastics in my veins. Regardless, I make it through physically intact. Mentally, well, you can find my trailing between Augusta and San Diego. Eventually I arrive at the storm that is approaching, and instead of a lawn chair theatrics, I get a fetch quest to rip the brain matter out of a killer deathbot. No biggie. Instead of climbing up green tech, my brain did something I don't even know why I did. But I thought it would be a fun way to finish this recording session by swimming to the furthest island in the Commonwealth just for a bobblehead. Yeah, the glowing Mirelurks are way more threatening than a casual missile to the face. I went to the boat, grabbed me 1/16th Irish Heritage, and yeah, I fought the Legendary Queen, even though I didn't need to. And my mini nuke somehow did not budge the health bar. Okay, missile barrage to the face it is. By playing with cover, I can reclaim the island, and also, baby hatchlings are all legendary. Honestly, if I had the missiles and sanity to spare, I could have gone queen crab hunting just for the hatchlings and more chances for an explosive combat shotgun, but oh well. Okay, enough dancing around my inner fears and cowardice. I figure I should probably face my missile to the face like a real man. Splatters against the walls and other lovely decoration tips notwithstanding. After sleeping my sorrows away, and no, I am not talking about dealing with more work-related brain fog, I figure going forward, I should probably focus a lot more on single-shot weapons instead of automatics. 1 cap in the brain, or 5 caps to the torso, followed by 10 more because phase 2. My choice. The climb up green tech wasn't too bad. Tin can, mitigating damage really helps out a lot. Peekaboo, I see you, but you can't see me anymore. Sorry I shot you in the eyes. The part I was fearing the most was frankly a non-issue. I can face tank the missile and do a miracle shot through the terrain to splatter the canister. A wise man once told me, the greatest thing to fear is your own deep fears, and after facing your fears head on and coming out on top, can you grow further as a person. Those are words I live by. Though, I think the same person told me to light asbestos on fire and breathe it in while drinking a gallon of chlorinated bleach, so who am I to give honest advice? Eventually I make it to the top and have the showdown with the Courser. I went for a headshot to bring it down to half health so I can go into phase 2. And yeah, I can't aim at invisible targets for so I brought out my aiming is highly overrated pistol. I think I did more harm to the hostages than the Courser, but oh well. Before long, the Courser sprawled out on the floor, and I didn't have to try very hard to pick its brains out. And before saying hi and bye to the railroad, I decided to have some fun with the raiders and nearby ghouls. I don't know why, but sniping zombies from up high just feels cathartic. Eventually I said hell with it, and dove right into the action, and the Brotherhood joined in on the fun. You see, picking on the disabled zombies is so much fun. Please don't take that out of context. After the killing of Cambridge raiders notwithstanding, I dropped off my power armor bag at Sanctuary for most of the remainder of the run, and did some final prep work to more or less steamroll the rest of the run, such as upgrading my sniper rifle, which will be my bread and butter going forward. Then comes my favorite part of the run, if you catch my drift. I said, my favorite part. My favorite part. It. After spraying and praying all over my enemies, I am damn glad I got the first shot off. Tess has a explosive shotgun. Casually, one of the best legendary weapon combinations in the game. I think the only funnier combination for the double barrel is never ending. Eventually the railroad has been decommissioned, and Pam tried to get away from me. There is no crawling away from this psychopath. Damn it, I forgot about explosions. Oh well, I returned the favor right back to some raiders. So beautiful. I then returned to Virgil and got my schematics, and left a parting gift as someone who plans on going down the Institute route. Back at Sanctuary, Preston does not feel comfortable with some person with 6th stage bubonic plague giving him some teleporter plans without first helping out some settlers. Oh, I will help them alright, but not before I help myself to some raider desserts. Honestly, my brain is so hardwired to visiting the satellite, I forgot I didn't actually need to come in. I don't mind. Though this is interesting, this is 2 sniper runs in a row. After I have my desserts, hello settlers at 10 Pine Bluffs, I'm here to help you. What's that? You are satellite members of the Vigil Ascendar? One moment, please. What the? With my mission failed spectacularly, Preston decides to let me build my teleporter and not doom the Commonwealth. I heard doom the Commons for wealth, so I hurried and built the teleporter and warped inside. I didn't take very long and got right to helping Father, but first, I am curious what he had on him. Iced cold, I say. Reloading to a timeline without curiosity, I wandered around the Institute. Meeting individuals, I pondered if their internal belongings are worth betraying the Institute for. A lot of this was tempting, but nothing too fun, so I got my first Institute mission to liberate the Libertalia. And since I am the master of being so bloody unfocused, and I'm not on any medication for it, I decided to have fun sniping at the racetrack, and it was fun sneaking around sniping raiders from afar. Frankly, I might have a challenge run where I have to do the entire run undetected. Fallout 4 right now has my longest list of challenge ideas, so I might go through with it at some point. After playing cat and mouse with overkill weaponry, the racetrack could be cleaned out with some fireworks to behold, and I could storm the announcer stand, and Ernie was more than eager to get his head blown off. And to celebrate my self-anointed triple crown, I set off some wonderful fireworks. Napalm and nukes smell wonderful in the morning. Okay, enough getting distracted. Woo, pretty sea captain's hat. Time to get back to the mission. Not getting nuked into my pretty much dead second channel. I rendezvoused with my help for the mission, though some days the Courser isn't the best murder bot. As soon as the nuclear raider came into view, I plucked their asses to the deepest reaches of hell, and since I'm having fun, I spent probably the next 20 minutes sneaking around sniping raiders from afar. I didn't need to do it, but it sure as hell felt cathartic. I was found at one point, which made sniping a lot easier. I at least knew where they were coming from. Once the party has been cleared out, and the crew of the Titanic could become an all-you-can-eat fish food buffet, I made it to the top, and the game would not let me shut down Gabe. At least Xenoblade 6 could do my job better than I could, and next up comes Bunker Hill. Rather than speedrunning the mission by doing the smart thing and giving this intellectual synth his third eye socket, I figure I should sit back and enjoy the carnage. It just means more legendary items for me to pick from. At the very least, I can take solace that I'm not the biggest psychopath attending the battle. One of the railroad heavies was trying to murder a child. Listen, I might be a psychopath with a long list of war crimes trying to go for a high score, but I would never murder a child, even on my runs where I try to kill everyone. The carnage continued to the inside, and the only thing I need to worry about were the heavies. The real MVP was a synth with a minigun. I'm just here as backup. I factory reset the synths after they watched one too many adult content shows and downloaded the numerous viruses that came with it. Be grateful that Mini Nuke didn't hit me. And after 2 action-packed missions back to back, I get to chill with a weekly meeting I totally didn't sleep through. Now comes Mass Fusion, which I was pretty nervous with, namely with all the power armored knights. For some reason, there were barely any knights around, which sure as hell makes my life easy. Ellie is practically useless, so it is up to me to continue main character syndrome to save the day. By that I mean leave Ellie behind and nearly jump to my death, but be saved by the good neighbor safety net. The lobby wasn't too strenuous, just carrying on the legacy of the high fructose corn syrup, and I am down in the basement, rushing to microwave my innards until my organs pop like a balloon. The part I'm scared for the most is the sentry bot. It hits stupidly hard and has a lot of health, but if there's any one thing going against it, it is too dummy thick to fit through the doors. So for half of the battle, we just had an awkward standoff, staring at each other through the prison window. I would just corner peek when needed, and eventually fried his GPU, and showed it what his GPU would cost today, thanks to the AI bubble yearning for a good pop. And its wallet didn't take it too kindly. And on its corpse, I found a weapon that would have been helpful a minute ago. I hate you too, Karma. The assault runs weren't as dangerous. Well, I fear getting atomized, but that is what a shitload of drugs are for. Popco's the only love and neckbeard wishes he could get, and I did get some last-minute target practice with the forces in the lobby, just because it's fun. Yeah, the shotgun will be my go-to weapon for the final battle. Eventually the day was saved for the evil guys from the slightly not-so-evil guys, and I'm back to falling asleep at the late missions of the Institute. You know, blow some gunners into next Tuesday past our jury duty date, making the legal system come after their asses, threatening a scared guy to be even more scared, and before the final battle, I upgraded my shotgun to hopefully see me through. Back to free moments of experience, I give the Commonwealth a piece of my mind, fix the radio station, turn the power reactor on, and get some progress updates now that I am the acting dictator, such as telling Father I don't like the railroad, and with my power armor in hand, now comes the final battle. I waste no time in ripping into the Brotherhood. I started the assault with my explosive pistol, which is okay, but the shotgun is way, way better. I don't have to aim, just point and click, and suddenly the Brotherhood Knights are mix and matching body parts. I didn't feel like climbing the towers, so I just shot from afar. I have no idea where the sweet spot is for the missile strat, but mini nukes are a nice alternative. The rest of the battle wasn't too interesting. The explosive rounds more than made up for the shotgun's range issue. Just aim in a general direction, and the problem sorted itself out just fine. Hopefully. Really, the battle wasn't that bad. Not as bad as I was fearing. I didn't need to do a lot of protecting, just using a Gatling gun for a carnival game, and eventually Liberty Prime turned the Led Zeppelin into a dead Zeppelin. I watched a fireworks show, and I really want Father's legendary item, so I purloined it the classic Orph way, and I have successfully beat Fallout 4 with every enemy being legendary. That was a pretty fun run. The difficulty was surprisingly balanced in a way. Sure, you are way more likely to find the overpowered weapon combinations, but at the same time, the enemies are way tougher, and I had to actually think my way through combat situations. I would have no idea if one of the raiders had a fat man stuck up their ass and swapped to that, so I had to play things cautiously. Probably the main downside of every legendary enemy being legendary is that enemies are way more bullet spongy than they need to be. As the run progressed, the meta focused into a high damage single shot weapons, just so the enemies would not regenerate to full health suddenly. Hence why weapons like sniper rifles and combat shotguns were so effective. And yes, the explosive combat shotgun is the best weapon in the game, though a junkie's weapon with every withdrawal symptom is also very funny. I had a lot of fun with the run. It has been something I've been wanting to do for a very long time now, and I am glad I was able to go through with it. And it is a mod challenge I recommend everyone to give a go at least once, just because the weapons you get and their perks are completely randomized. You might get junk like instigating machine guns, or you could get godly weapons, such as the Ghoul Slayer Gamma Gun. You never know unless you suddenly get a gambling addiction. As for what's to come next, I got my battery backup replaced hopefully, so I expect a starving artist to do a starvation run. Stay tuned to that. And before I sign off for the night, I want to give a special thank you to all my channel members and patrons who always manage to spawn in with legendary items without any mods installed. Links to them along with my socials and Discord in the description. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to drop a like, subscribe for more masochism and any other ways to torture myself, leave them down below. This has been Orpheolus, and I'll see you on the next one.